This podcast shares stories inspired by real EMS events highlighting experiences of emergency medical service professionals. To respect patient privacy and comply with HIPAA regulations, all personal and medical information has been thoroughly redacted or replaced. Listener discretion is advised, and the content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The creators of this podcast assume no responsibility for any actions taken as a result of information or stories provided. Thank you for your understanding and for joining us. My name is Sunny.
And I'm Nathan.
And let's dive into today's story. Before we get started today, just a quick disclaimer that today's story shares some graphic details, and if you are someone that these depictions make you uneasy or uncomfortable, skip past the story and, go straight into our discussion, or we'll see you in the next episode. So I was browsing on Reddit, as I do, right?
Ooh, those are gums.
Yep, and I came across this story. What?
I couldn't speak right there.
Nate,
I don't know what I said.
We're like 3 seconds in and you're malfunctioning.
I
was saying, good thing I'm doing the storytelling today. Thank God. So as I was saying, I was browsing on Reddit and I came across this really great story that was posted. This person is an EMT, and we'll just get right into it.
I'm excited.
Yes. Okay, so this happened about 6 years ago when I was a student. Every single detail is still so vivid in my memory, and I'm going to write this as I'm reliving it in my head. So it might be a long read. It was actually my last scheduled clinical before I took the NREMT. For those of you guys who don't know, the NREMT is our
difficult.
Difficult. But it is basically the giant test that you take as an EMT to certify as an EMT.
In order to get your license.
Yeah. It was the beginning of June and the weather was beautiful, sunny and low 70s. I was working with one of the best paramedics I know. Let's call him Bob. He was extremely smart, a great educator, calm, patient, and funny. Anyways, we got a call that I didn't catch because I didn't really understand the radio lingo back then.
Oh, yeah.
That's very relatable.
It's really bad.
Dude, I remember when I first became an EMT, I was like, what is going on? Like, it'd be like, and I'm like, yeah, for sure. Like,
you missed the address and you have anxiety?
Yeah. You're like, where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going?
I like it when you see the fire truck and you just start following,
that's
the one you...
You know what's crazy? It's like you never hear any of it. It's always like Boulevard, and I'm like, bro, what? That's all I got is Boulevard. Anyways, where were we? She couldn't, catch the lingo, but I just hopped into the back of the ambulance like I was trained to do. Bob and his partner, an EMT we'll call Steve, hopped up front. We weren't driving lights and sirens, so I knew it wasn't a time-sensitive emergency. When we got to the scene, there was a fire truck, 2 state police cars, and a black unmarked Suburban. Is that a car?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a police car, like one of the undercovers.
Okay. Everyone was congregated outside chatting. The house was old, run down, garbage bags over the windows, weeds for grass, a beat-up 1990s minivan in the front yard, and cigarette butts and garbage littering the yard.
Ooh.
There were flies, which I didn't think anything of, but I did notice there were a lot of them. I specifically remember the 0 that was in the house address was written on the door in Sharpie because the original number fell off at some point. I don't know. I don't know why that stuck with me through all of these years, but it did. I got out of the back of the ambulance and had to deal with the same stuff I always deal with in EMS from fire and police. You're too pretty to be working in this field. What's a pretty girl doing here? Blah, blah, blah.
Gross.
Annoying as hell, but pertinent to today's story.
That's so gross. I hate that.
We'll go into that because I got a lot of stories to tell about that one, okay? Anyways, I still had no idea what was going on until my medic came up to me and said, go ahead and leave your stethoscope in the rig. I thought that was odd, but I put it in the back. He also threw a second pair of gloves at me and a mask. The front door of the house was open, and I could see a few people inside. 2 police officers helped a frail woman down the 3 rickety stairs. She was wearing very oversized men's clothes. Me. Including the underwear, and had to hold the pants up because they kept falling down. She looked very disheveled, filthy, and malnourished, and it was apparent that she definitely had some mental disabilities. Some people pulled her aside and were talking to her, and she seemed confused. Bob waved me towards him, and we walked up 3 steps into the house. Flies started to buzz around my face. People were coughing. Also, sidebar, let me just clarify. Bob is her preceptor, so like her FTO. So Bob is training her right now.
So she's not like on a ride along?
Yeah. No, like this
training?
I think she's being trained. Is what I'm getting from this.
That's a crazy training shift.
Yeah, or like she's a student or she's a trainee, right? She's new. I think we need to hound that in. On the couch to my right was an extremely bloated, decomposed man. Skin sloughing, fluid on the floor, the whole thing. He looked to be in his 60s and was completely naked. Beside him was a soggy bowl of cereal, and the TV was blaring on old black and white cowboy show. There were empty Arizona tea bottles all over the floor, and I realized they were filled with urine. A lazy boy besides the couch was so covered in cigarette ashes that I think that's what he was using as his ashtray. A small dog roamed around our feet. I quickly realized that the saying, "You'll never forget the smell of a dead body," was 100% true.
Yes.
We went back outside, and I saw that the person who was driving the unmarked Suburban was the county coroner. He determined that the man was very obviously deceased and drove away. Bob grabbed a body bag, and we made our way back into the house with the 2 other firefighters, Steve and the 3 state police officers. A woman who turned out to be from Adult Human Services brought the frail lady from earlier inside and showed her the body.
That's so sad.
"He's not alive anymore," she said, comforting the frail lady who was now crying. "Yes, he is. I was just talking to him this morning. See, I got him his breakfast," and she pointed to the cereal. "He's been fine. I've been sleeping beside him for months."
Months?
The room got quiet, and we all kind of shared glances of disbelief at each other. They took the lady out of the house, and it was time for us to get to work. This was a big guy, probably around 300 pounds. We were trying to find out a way to get him into the body bag, but there was so much junk everywhere. We had to throw his ashtray recliner over a pile of junk into what I assumed was the dining room. We laid the body bag on the floor and decided to try and slide him into it that way. Well, when we pulled his arms to get him off the couch, he let out a huge fart from all the pent-up gases in his body, and I remember a few cops and Steven gagging and running out of the house. He started throwing up outside. There was only me, Bob, 2 firemen, and a state police officer left in there. As we pulled him up again, the flesh of his back peeled off and stayed attached to the couch. A fireman and the last state police officer ran out. Then the skin on his arms started to rip off like gloves. The last fireman ran out the door. It was just me and Bob. He said, "If this is too much for you, you can go outside." I said I was okay.
Dang.
We pulled this guy off the couch, and he started falling apart. Bob and I maneuvered him into the body bag, and I remember hearing the pockets of fluid on his lower extremities popping inside the bag. It sounded like water balloons popping inside a bucket. When we finally wrestled his body into the bag, I grabbed the zipper and started zipping it, and the thing broke. I remember saying, F word, as she should. And Bob saying, "Watch your language." And I thought I was going to be in so much trouble for swearing. Turns out he was just giving me shit. And if there was ever a time to say that word, it was at that moment. That's very fair, as she should, like I said.
Gross.
Someone threw another body bag into the house, and we somehow managed to fit the body in the first body bag inside the second body bag. The zipper zipped, and Bob and I started hauling him out of the house. As I got to the door, I noticed that cute little dog eating the dead man's body fluid off of the floor. The rest of the guys outside were just standing there staring. Steven was still throwing up next to the ambulance. We lugged this guy down the steps and put him into the back of the ambulance. When we came back out, all of those guys who were calling me a pretty girl and in the wrong field were staring at me in disbelief. One of them said, "I take back what I said. You're in the right field."
That's right.
I remember Bob made Steven ride in the back with the body because I rightfully deserved to sit in the front seat in the air conditioning.
Nice.
The whole time back to the hospital, we could hear him gagging in the back. When we got to the hospital, Bob and I brought the dead guy to the morgue. We put him into the fridge and scrubbed our hands and arms raw in the sink. Neither of us really talked. After all was done, we headed back to the ambulance, and Bob told me to sit in the front seat. He looked at me and genuinely asked if I was okay. I told him I was, and he asked me if I was sure. I didn't feel traumatized. If anything, I was in shock because I didn't expect to do anything that day. I still had adrenaline pumping through my body. After I graduated EMT school and passed the NREMT, Bob went to the EMS manager and said, if you don't hire her, you're an effing idiot. That's how I got my job. Slinging liquefied dead guy into 2 body bags and proving girls can do the dirty shit that men don't think that we can do.
Dang. And she was an EMT student.
Yeah.
Not even on a training shift.
And I quickly like glanced through the story when I was looking at it, and it just so many emotions, right?
Dude.
First of all, I don't know what I would do in that situation. Like, let's start there, right? Like, I want to believe that I take that with grace as much as she was. Like,
I 100% believe I won't be able to do it.
I feel like there are 2 things at point here. Is when you're an EMT student, when you're a trainee, there is an extra layer of motivation that you don't have once you're in the job, right? Like,
that's true.
I don't know if like everybody experiences this, because there probably are people who don't, but I feel like when I was a student, when I was a trainee, like it's like intense like motivation you have to literally do everything that you can possibly can, right?
Well, I think it's you're excited to go out there and help.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's the thing is like that's understandable for like, oh, like a full arrest, right? Like I want to do CPR, I want to be a part of the team, right? But like this, like especially if like you, as the story was going on, right? There was like, a police officer leaves, a firefighter leaves, like everybody's like leaving time after time again, and it's literally just her and
the medic.
Her like preceptor basically. And I mean that's commendable. That's respect. I respect.
I started getting like nauseous.
Like just like imagining it.
Imagining it. When you said the skin like stayed on the couch, I got nauseous. I got a weird taste in my mouth. And then you said that the dog started eating.
Yeah, that's
one I did
rough.
gag a little bit.
I mean, and that one sentence where it's like you'll never forget the smell of a dead body.
It's true.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I have I don't know if this is like standard practice, but I actually bought these like nasal plugs. So like these apparently like, okay, so it's like menthol plugs. You can still breathe through them.
Yeah, you gave me some.
Yeah, I gave you some because like, I mean, I'm complaining about like a GI bleed. Okay, granted, those are rough.
Kind of gross.
Okay, if you've ever smelled a GI bleed, a gastrointestinal bleed, that's very rough. But this is like, I don't know. Like, I want to say I would do what she did, but you'll never know until we're there, right? Like, so thank God I've not experienced this yet. I think what caught my eye about this one is I want to know what county she's in, because we don't deal with that.
No,
like
probably somewhere rural.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I'm not like, we're in Southern California and we don't do that. At least in Orange County and like LA County that I know of.
They have like the coroner do that, right?
Yeah, like I've never heard. If it's a DOA, we just wait.
My help here is not needed.
That's crazy. Yeah, I think this story makes me like half scared, but also low key like I want to go work in a rural area.
That's pretty crazy.
Just like some crazy stuff goes on.
She said, I've been sleeping next to him for months.
Okay, first, wait, I just like glazed over that. I forgot. Let's go back to that. Okay, because, no. Yeah, we'll start at the beginning. She is giving him breakfast. Like, you know how in the beginning of the story, like she walks in there, like, she's describing that when she walked in, there was a bowl of cereal like right next to him. Like that's crazy to me, right? Like that woman, like has just been like, I think it's sad though. I think it's so sad because she probably couldn't cope with the fact that her husband was dead.
She probably has like some sort of dementia or
Alzheimer's
as
like
well.
Probably. And like I've also like heard of situations where like if people are like, schizophrenic or like have some sort of like mental history, mental health history, they will kind of disassociate. and start believing like what, you know, it's like a defense. It's like a very extreme defense mechanism, basically. But to that extent, it's just crazy. Yeah.
As soon as you said there was a lot of flies, I already knew there was going to be something like that. Oh,
yeah. So it's just like, I mean, this story is crazy. I'm like taking a second because I'm like thinking about like sleeping next to like a dead body, like just be in the same room for a second, right? But like I think she was living in that condition, which like probably was putting her in not just like, she obviously has like a lot of mental health like problems going on, but like the physical repercussions, I'm sure that's not healthy. Like I'm sure there were like fumes that she's breathing in.
And I'm pretty sure that was not the first time the dog had eaten anything like that.
What does that do to a dog? Like can dogs? Okay, I don't know. I don't know anything about dogs. I've never owned a dog. They can?
Yeah, so I heard a story, or I read a story online where somebody had passed away.
Okay.
And they had cats and they had dogs.
Okay.
And those animals would eat their owner because they were hungry.
Oh my God.
I don't think anything happens to them.
They're fine.
Yeah.
So dogs can't eat grapes and chocolate, but they can eat humans. Like, huh? No, but like genuine question, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, you know what? I've seen those. I don't have dogs, but I've seen like, oh, like don't feed your like. You can't have chocolate. You can't have like grapes.
My dog ate a piece of onion. That's a small little piece of onion last time. My mom freaked out.
Okay.
Because they can't eat onion.
Why?
I don't know, because they're stupid. So she rushed into the vet, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, Mom, how come when I was little and I drank a cup of bleach, all you did was call poison control?
Wait. Back up. Why were you drinking bleach, bro?
It was an accident, okay?
Uh-huh. 5150 ASAP, please.
Said too much. No, it was because it was my mom or my grandma's fault. They put it in, again, in a little McDonald's cup, kid-sized.
Oh, I remember this. Okay, yeah.
No, the other time was Pine Sol. This is bleach.
Wait. So she did it twice.
It was a multiple occurrence, yeah. Maybe that's why she just called poison control. They're like, yep, drink some milk.
Wait, they didn't call poison control for you?
No, they did.
They did?
That's all they did. I didn't go to the hospital.
And then they told you to drink milk?
Yeah.
For bleach?
Yeah. Or just throw up.
Oh, okay. Well.
I could be wrong, but I was a kid.
Yeah, the bleach probably like burned your brain so like obliterated.
But good thing it was a little bit though, because like I took a sip. Obviously, it burned me.
You ever do anything dumb? Just be like, okay, yeah. Just be like, yeah, my grandma fed me bleach, so like, give me a break.
Yeah, and all the concussions I've had.
That's a solid excuse. Oh my God. Okay. Somebody like, if you guys know why dogs can eat human flesh but can't eat chocolate or grapes or certain things, you know, let us know.
Comment,
because I would love to know. I might do some of my own research after we finish up this episode. But I think one thing that really resonated with me was what she described about being a girl in EMS. Mm-hmm. As a girl in EMS, you know, I can't even begin to tell you the amount of experiences that I have regarding this specific.
The disrespect.
Yeah, and I think, you know what it is? Like, I feel like I don't really talk about this as much as I would like to. Mm-hmm. Only because, like, it's a very male-dominant field. And, like, when I do speak up about these things, it comes off very whiny and complaining. And it's like, well, if you're not going to, like, you know, if you're not going to suck it up and deal with it, then, like, you are not in the right field, mm-hmm. right? And so it's this pressure to want to keep this face on, right? To be like, I don't care. It doesn't hurt me. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But it does suck, right?
Does.
It does suck when, you know, especially on those days that, like, it is a tough day.
There's somebody constantly doubting your skills.
Yeah, and like I think you know that study they did on kids where they took one group of kids and they told them that they were great, that they were smart, that they were capable, and that they were gonna do everything that they were like supposed to do, and all of these like very good positive affirmations. And then they did another group where they didn't do that, and they gave them the same tasks, everything. And the group who was given the positive affirmations really like did much better, right? And so when you doubt people, right, like there's only so much I can push away and like disqualify in my own head. I think after a certain amount of times, it really, really, really gets to you. I mean, it even started back like during COVID. It wasn't even just a female thing, right? Like I had to deal with a lot of like racism, like from my patients. Like we were risking COVID. First of all, like Nathan here got COVID like 6 times on the job, right? 9.
And
okay.
counting.
9 and counting. Like we were exposed to COVID, and this was before really anyone had the vaccine. And like we were doing transports for people purely for the reason that they had COVID, not because like
they had any
like medical stuff. It was purely because they have COVID and like
isolation stuff.
Yeah, they were in isolation, and like we were like supposed to be the only ones who were subject to that, right? And so you're showing up, you're doing this, and people are coming in being like, oh well, like asking me like, yeah, like lady, why'd they send you, right? And it's like, it's whatever, not that big of a deal. But it's time and time again, like they'll come and ask me questions that like you'll never ask a dude, right? Like remember that one time where we like showed up and this guy was like, well, how much do you bench?
Oh, are you sure you could lift me?
Yeah, like just like constant doubting. And I'm like, I've come to terms with like, I get it. I don't look like I can lift much, right? And that's very fair. I cannot lift as much as Nathan can, right? But like to not even let me have a chance to prove myself, that's my problem with it, right? Yeah. Like to come in already and like start spinning things before I even like got a chance to try to do my job. That's where I have a problem with it. Now let's say I don't do my job. Now I go for it. Say whatever you need to say.
Roast me.
Right? But it's like, you didn't even give me a chance.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I understand that we're showing up on scene and whatever with like these 6'10", like 300-pound muscle firefighters, and I don't match up nearly to that. But it's like, I just kind of come to terms with like, you know what? I'm going to beat your ass, but with my brain, like.
No, like, Sonny, no.
I'm gonna do it with my brain, right? Like, because I'll be honest, like I understand that like I don't match up, but I have a brain, right? Like I that's what I have to offer.
I'm all muscle.
Actually, the other day, like I was gonna make a video about this because it made me so mad, but I'll share it here instead. And okay. The other day, I pulled up on scene, right? It's me and my partner. And just the engine, right? Just the fire engine. So we go in the house, whatever. We do what we need to do. Patient doesn't end up needing to like have to go right to the hospital. So we're kind of like, one of the firefighters is talking to the family, and having them sign AMA, blah, blah, blah. So the rest of us are just kind of like standing outside hanging out, right? Yeah. And well, I have my last name covered.
With tape?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because people are weird, okay? People are interesting. I've gotten some weird interactions with, coworkers, and I just don't really want them to see my last name, right? That's fair, right? And one of the firefighters like looks at my name, my uniform shirt, and he goes, "Oh, why do you have it like taped up?" And he doesn't, right? Or I think he didn't see the tape. He was like, "Why do you not have a last name?" And he does. And I was like, "Oh, I just like kind of taped up because like, like people can be weird." Like didn't kind of like go into it. I was just like, people can be weird, right? And he was like, well, like, you're not like, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that. And I was like, oh, well, like if I'm wrong, then I can go talk to my supervisor about it, right?
Nice.
And he was like, oh, I'm just kidding. But he's like, but what really, why, like, what is that? Like, why are you doing that? And I was like, first of all, in my head, I was like, why are you so interested in my name? It's a bit weird, right? And I was like, you know what? I told him, I was like, honestly, like, it's just, I've had some like interesting experiences, and like, I just don't feel like safe with like certain coworkers and just like people around me. Right. And he looks at me, and I shit you not, this man goes, oh, well, if you don't feel safe, then you're probably in the wrong field.
Wow. He did not say that.
And I'm like, first of all, and he starts talking randomly about something else, so I don't even like get a chance to like really like say anything because he's just like going off. And I was like, you know what, I'm not even gonna like deal with this. So It was the last call of the night too, so I was like, I'm gonna go home. Like,
you're done.
Go. Yeah, we were like overtime already. I was like, I'm gonna go. So I'm leaving, and I guess like my whole like opinion on this is like, okay, it's one thing for me, like it's a whole other conversation if we're talking about like I don't feel safe like on the job, right? Like if I feel like not safe like going into like people's houses, like patients' houses,
or like bad neighborhoods.
I'm talking about my coworkers. I'm talking about the people who work with me. So how is that my problem? How is it that it's like if I don't feel safe because coworkers are being weird with me, right? Like we're not gonna get into exactly what that is, right? But just trust me, right? With that, how is that my problem? How is it the wrong field for me when it's y'all who are weird? Y'all are the problem.
And it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like a hostile work environment.
Yeah, exactly. Like it should be a safe work environment. Like in terms of just like the coworkers, right? Like of course, like the you know, the nature of our job, like that's different. Now I'm talking about coworkers, not just in my company. People, other EMS professionals I work with.
Or firemen.
Right? Exactly. So it's like y'all
gross.
How is that my problem? Right? That's like, oh, you know, it's kind of like the whole debate of like, oh, like women want to feel like they're able to like walk down the street without getting jumped, basically, right? So it's like, how is that our problem, right? Of course, I'm gonna do like my like safe measures. Like I'm not gonna walk like at like 3 a.m. alone at night. Right? Just at work, I'm taking my precautions.
Yeah.
Right? I don't mingle with like them. I do like my job and I leave. Right? So.
And plus, it's like you said, if you're out in the street, you could avoid those times or those areas. But at work, you can't. You have to go to work.
And these are the people who are supposed to be your crew. These are the people who are supposed to have your back. Right? We're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna come back to that. We got a few more I gotta share. And we're back. During the break, our lovely sound guy, Ped, did us the honor of looking up why dogs can have chocolate and grapes. I mean, cannot have. Butchered it already.
Yeah, he didn't teach very well.
Can't have chocolate and grapes, but can have, you know, flesh and bones and stuff.
Raw meat.
Yeah. So apparently, dogs have very strong, you know,
stomach acids.
Yeah, stomach acids that we don't have. So it basically just is, you know, a stronger acid that can break down, you know, flesh and bones.
And it kills all the bacteria and viruses.
Right. Yeah. So, but in terms of the grapes and chocolate, they have certain like toxins. Yeah,
or
toxins.
Enzymes.
No. Toxins that they like, you know, have that we have enzymes for to digest, but dogs don't have those enzymes, so the toxins just stay toxic, you know, and can basically poison them and be bad for them. So it's quite interesting.
So I have enzymes for bleach and Lysol.
Yeah,
Pine Sol.
Nate's just like built different. That's the lesson of today's story. Nate's just built different. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, Nate. I want to highlight Nate for being like the star ally like ever, because I mean he's had many girl partners, right?
The majority have been.
Yeah, and I was Nate's partner for like 6-7 months, and I got to experience how great he is, right? Like I think sometimes you'll have partners who necessarily won't participate in this kind of behavior, right? Like basically being discriminatory of girls, but he will take the extra step and actually stand up for us.
Back you up.
Yeah. Like sometimes I wouldn't even get a chance to respond. Like this, like a patient's family or patient will say something, or a coworker even. And before I can even respond, like Nate's just throwing stuff at them.
Yeah. I think there was one time we were picking up this guy and he was looking at you. He's like, "Oh, you're going to be able to pick me up?
Yeah.
Like, are you sure? You're kind of small."
Yeah.
I was like, "Don't worry, man. She's stronger than me."
And Nate would just like hype me up, you know, like when like sometimes we'll have pretty heavy patients, right? and mind you, Nate and I use manual gurneys, right? Like so we're lifting those by ourselves.
There's no electric.
No such as electric.
Power.
Yeah. And you know, when Nate and I first became partners, like I had told him, I was like, hey, if I do need help, like I'm not one of those people who's like, I'm not gonna ask for help ever. Like if I know my limits, then I'll ask for help, right? But I told him, I was like, I'll ask you for help if I need it, right?
That reminds me of when when people would come in, "Hey, do you guys need help?" I'm like, "Nah, we're good."
Good, yeah.
Like, please.
like, Nate, you have to like understand that like you're not. It's me here, okay? But anyways, so yeah, Nate would, you know, just like hype me up all the time. Like if we're lifting a heavy patient, he'd be standing like behind patient, right, at the head, yeah, and I would be standing like at the trigger side, like his like the patient's feet on the gurney, and Nate will like peer behind, like, you know, it's like this is the like the patient, and he'll just right, he'll look at me, he's like, you're good, you good, and I'm like, right, and then we'll go up, we'll like, all right, ready, like, cause I'm counting off, right, and so I'll go ready, 1, 2, and we'll go up, and then Nate, like, this is early on, right, so like at this point we hadn't really had a patient this heavy yet, and so it's a pretty big one, right, and we lift up, and he goes, right, he peers behind, and for those guys who aren't watching like the video, right, but he basically points at me and then fucking pumps his arm up, right, and he was like, yeah. And I'm like standing there because the patient's looking at me, right? So I'm like trying to keep a straight face, and I'm like, she's like, what are you doing? Anyways, that's just like a small little example of like a million times that Nate has just always been like just super supportive and just encouraging, and never ever, you know, doubting like my and any of his girl partner's abilities. And I think that it's not that. Is it hard to do, Nate?
No,
exactly.
I don't think so.
It's not hard to do.
Just gotta believe.
And I think there's this whole thing too of like sometimes I feel like people will like brush it off to be a joke, right? Like that's like the second part I wanted to get into today was a lot of times like when they say stuff like that, whether it's like race or even like sex, like gender oriented, your related comments, you know, if you have a reaction to it, they'll be like, oh, you're so sensitive. Like you just need to get over it. It's just a joke. Like you're stop being like, because then it ties back to even being like a gender thing. So it's like, oh, you're being such a girl about it. Like, you know, you're so sensitive. Like this is why you're not fit for the field because you can't handle the trash talk. You can't handle like, you know, locker room talk, like whatever, right? Like boy talk. That makes me mad because now like I'm just like I feel hurt by it and it's not something I want to hear, but now I'm like forced to basically pretend I don't care about it, which like just makes it worse. And like for example, the other day I had a partner and I was telling him a story about how a firefighter like basically made a Asian female driver joke at me.
Ooh.
Right. And
that's a double whammy for you.
Right, yeah, it's a double whammy. It's a double whammy, right? Double homicide, okay? And so I was telling the story and I was like, yeah, like this happened, and I basically told him what I said back, right? I was like, is that supposed to be racist? I literally looked at fire, I was like, is that supposed to be racist?
Life flash
like,
before his eyes.
Is that supposed to be sexist, you know?
Pension.
And my partner literally, like, I'm expecting my partner to be, like, on my side, right? Like, I'm expecting him to be like, yo, like, I can't believe he said that to you. Like, I'm so sorry, whatever, right? Like, that's, like, messed up. No, he looks at me and goes, he goes, bro, you ruined the joke.
Wow.
I need a second. Like, I'm like, you know, like, oh my God, like, and I'm like, I literally just turned and looked at him and I was like, okay, whatever. Conversation over. Thank you.
Yeah.
Conversation over. We're sitting in silence for the rest of this ride.
Maybe I could tell you something like that.
Yeah, like we're like, I mean, it was the way like you say it. It's like oh my God, how you like? It's like different. But he literally was like dead serious. He was like, wow, like you ruined the joke.
And he was more like, offended the fact that you ruined the joke.
And I was like, okay, bud, take a seat. Like, I was so angry, and it was just like I feel like it's just these are like small examples. Like this is like time and time again. I've gotten better at it, you know. I'm like honestly, most of the time I'm like whatever, not that big of a deal. But I think that comment though that he made about like when I said I wasn't feeling safe in this job, like feeling safe, like you know, in certain like situations, he was like, "You're not fit for this job," and I was like, "Oh, so I'm just like supposed to not feel safe."
You're supposed to get harassed at
work.
work.
I'm just supposed to get harassed. Like, that's just how it's supposed to be. Thank you. That hurt. I think I went home, like, feeling really sad about it. And I was just like, it's a job that I love. It's a field that I love. And, like, if I don't even have, like, the people, like, backing me up for it, then, like, sometimes it just, like, sucks, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I I don't know necessarily. I think a lot of people ask like, oh, like what is like even you're supposed to do about it, blah blah blah. Honestly, like there is nothing you can do about it. Like I've just really come to terms. Yeah, I've just really come to terms that there is nothing to do about it, and like it like you know, at least I like the job enough to like be able to like want to continue. And I'm definitely like someone who will, like this girl, right? This girl from the story today, and she, you know, it's like I find so much joy in proving to these people that doubt me that like I can do my job. Just, I mean, listen, I don't know if I'll ever do it to her extent, but like I have so much respect for this girl. Whoever you are, if you ever hear this, there's so much respect for you. I think first of all, your storytelling skills, A1. Let's just start with that. That was a beautiful written story. And 2, I just have so much respect for you, the way you dealt with it, the way you really just like showed up for all of us girls out here in EMS.
And Nathan.
And Nathan too, an ally. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's like my little like thing about it today. I felt strongly about the story. I think obviously there was a lot of gore and, you know, all of this like shocking stuff of the story, Gross. but that's really what I took out of it, right? It's like you expect I mean, when she came out of the ambulance initially before the call even started, they were already saying these things to her, you know, doubting her, calling her a pretty girl, like, why are you here? Why are you like blah, blah, blah.
It's too much of a common occurrence.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's sometimes better to have a crew that has one female and one male, because you get these calls that it's like a sexual abuse or a kid was like assaulted or somebody that just doesn't like to be with men. You have the female to help out. Right. And that's perfect.
And oftentimes too, we're putting like 4 leads, right? So basically those stickers that we place on you to see like a picture of your heart and everything. Like, I mean, whenever I'm on scene and it's a female, I do the leads, right? Yeah. Like if I see a firefighter like starting to do it, I will like immediately like I take over, you know, because it's like whether or not like the patient actually cares or not, like it's something that I can do. Like I'm already there, right? And so and like you mentioned with sexual assault victims and kids, like so I'll be honest, like kids respond so much better to women, like in my experience, right? So it's like there's so many things that like we can do that like a lot of men can't do, right? And vice versa, right? I don't sit there and try to go, yeah, I'm gonna go lift this like 500 patient by myself.
That's me.
Like I know my place, right? I know what I'm like capable of doing. I know like my scope basically, and I know what like I like am, I guess like good at and what I'm useful for.
And that's what the point of a team is, to be able to have different like strong sets that like strengths that you can both use together.
And I think I've always said like Nate and I always felt like we were a great example of that, because like you speak Spanish, I speak Mandarin, like you're a man and I'm a woman, and no, you speak one sentence of Mandarin. Okay, listen. And what was I gonna say? Oh, and you know, you're really, really strong. This MF can literally lift a hospital bed. I don't even know if you guys know how heavy those things are, but he lifted with one hand. Me, I'll get crushed by that.
But to be fair on that situation, my adrenaline was pumping. So
okay, but even if my adrenaline was pumping, you think first of all, like I don't know how, like I'm gonna need like a superhuman amount of like adrenaline to like. My like veins start pumping.
I just went.
I can fit into really small spaces, which is very useful sometimes. There are times where we've been in small homes and everything, and it's like a small space, and I go, Nate. Nate, listen, all me. Yeah. My time to shine.
Ain't gonna even try.
And Nate's like,
It's because I'm thick with 3 C's.
Yeah, but I think we had very, a great dynamic, and I think a team is supposed to be built like that, right? Our strengths and weaknesses like cover each other.
Different.
Yeah. So, of course, it's really hard to have like a full team like that, but
especially if you get randos all the time.
Right. But I think overall that is like a really good, like important point, right? Strength isn't everything, and strength is important. Which I think is like something I've been like thinking about a lot recently, because it's why is the fact that like, yes, I may not be the strongest person, but why does that like discredit anything else, like everything else?
It doesn't.
Right? Like it's almost like because they think that I can't like lift a gurney, right? That means I like, don't know anything else about like EMS.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like literally X, Y, no correlation, right? It's like, why is strength equate to anything else? Like, why is strength like the one thing that, like, you know what I mean?
If anything, I feel like if you only have strength, you're just like brute.
You're
like,
the worst EMT. Like, I'll be honest. Like, if you're just like strong and you suck at everything else, like I'll take the person who can't lift anything over this guy who's just like a meathead and he's like, oh, I'm gonna lift everything.
You know what? So I'm a supervisor for an ambulance company, right? And one of the EMTs, a girl EMT, comes up to me and she's like, hey, the new guy that you guys hired, he's really, really strong, but he's the worst at draw sheeting.
For those of you who don't know what draw sheeting is, so basically a lot of times it's a method to move patients from like one location to another. So like if a patient is on a bed, for example, like they have like a blanket or a sheet underneath them, right? So the name is kind of intuitive because you take the sheet on each side. So one person stands on like the left side of the patient, right, on like on the bed, and then one goes on the right. And so we'll place like the gurney right next to the bed, right, and then we'll like take each side of the sheet and then
together
slide, and we'll slide the patient over onto like the gurney, or vice versa, gurney
gently,
to the bed.
right?
Gently, yes.
This guy, he just goes, ah!
Bro, he's trying to launch the patient into the wall, bro.
And she was telling me that every patient, even if they weren't injured, they're like, ah.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, strain does not equate to anything, right? Like, so it's been like something that's been on my mind recently, because I'm like, it's almost like because they see me a certain way, it's like suddenly I don't know anything, right? And it's like there's a whole like pretty girl thing too. It's like oh, like she can't possibly know anything. Right. Oh, she gets through her job because because of the way she looks. She's successful, or she like, you know, gets what she wants or whatever because she like is pretty, or because of these things. And it's like, I'm sure there are situations where that's true, but it's like to automatically assume that is a different story.
Yeah.
I think what I'm pointing at is that like these people do exist. There are girls, right, and guys, whoever, who are not good at certain things, right? Who cannot drive, who cannot lift, who cannot, like, who do, quote unquote, flirt their way through the job. They do exist, right? But like to you know, take that and start assuming that all of us are like that, or just like, you know, kind of start stereotyping, basically. I think that's a whole different story, right? But then I guess like I'll leave with this last note, is that I've always said that being underestimated is my superpower, because there's just so much respect that I gain like when I do prove myself, right? Yes, I gotta like make that jump, right, to prove, and I do feel this pressure to like constantly prove myself, and I'm really hard on myself. But when I do, it feels really great, right? It's like
It's like a hat in your face.
Yeah. But do you have any final thoughts on today's story, today's discussion?
No. I would say some of my favorite partners were females, and they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Lots of gossip. I like it.
Well, let me just say, do girl partners not bring y'all the best food?
Yes. Always feeding me.
First of all.
You know what I like? That they like having me as the passenger princess. They're always so used to being the ones in the passenger seat. They're like, hey,
I'm driver daddy today.
You're a passenger princess. I was like, yes.
Yes, queen.
Eating my snacks, watching TikTok.
Bro, listen, they bring you snacks, they bring you food, they're driver daddy, you're a passenger princess. What more do you want?
It's great.
You can listen to all your, like, you know, your T Swift, your 90s songs. I feel like, bro, I always imagine like two guys in a rig together, and just like, this is how I imagine it to go. Sup, bro?
Sup?
What's your name?
Nate.
Jack. I'm cool. What kind of music you listen to? Oh, you know, like rap, Drake.
That's pretty dope.
That's pretty cool, dope. Yeah. Like, that's like the whole conversation, bro.
Well, you know what?
It's like, oh, what do you want to do? I'm trying to go fire. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100% fire.
Fire Academy? Fire Academy? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Dang, bro. Which one?
Dang, bro.
Which department?
Mount Sac? Oh, okay, cool. And they just like bump Drake for the rest of the show.
Well,
or like Kanye or something.
Yeah. Well, you remember my partner Jesse?
Was it like that?
No, it was great.
Okay, but Jesse's Jesse, right? Jesse was a like, you know, he was like written by a girl.
What?
Like you were written by a girl. He was written by a girl, right?
Yeah,
you know what that means? Yeah, like whereas like I don't know, like some I don't know.
He's every lady's dream.
Yeah.
He's my dream.
Yeah, dude, definitely some of these. So when you work with guys who are like what we just reenacted, is it that what's like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very bro.
It's like just like yo, bro.
Like honestly, most of the conversations that I've had are like gym. Cars.
Yeah.
What else? Girls.
Oh, yo, bro, you see that nurse in the earlier? Yeah.
Bro, you want to see who bad. I pulled?
She bad. She bad. Like I
bad.
swear she was. They always go. Oh yeah, she's bad. Like what? Like. Or they go like they could point out a car. Like we'll be driving ambulance, right? In the rig, and they're guy, yo, bro, yo, look at that McLaren, and I'm like, I'm literally sitting there. I'm like, yeah, cool.
Wow, who's McLaren?
I'm like, what? No, don't get me wrong. Like some of these, they're not like mean or anything. It's just like,
bro.
I think it's different because I feel like when they like, if I work with them, they're not necessarily as bro, right? Because like I'm a girl, so it's like different. But I do have some guys who like have bro talk with me, and it's like I'll do my best, right? Like I try to meet them. Like I'll try to meet them. I'm not like, oh, we have to talk about what I want to talk about. Like I'll try to like meet them with what they want to talk about. But sometimes they just like talk. They're just talking about engines. I'll just be honest. So I'll be like straight up honest. I'm like, no, listen, I don't know anything. So like I'll listen. Mm-hmm. But like I will not contribute.
This means nothing to me.
Yeah, because I just like don't understand. You know. Anyways. I don't even know how we got on that. We're talking about
bros.
Yeah. Well, bro.
Yes, bro.
On that note, we're gonna end today's episode.
Damn, bro.
That's so chill, bro.
All right, bro.
I'll see you later, next time, bro. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, please like and subscribe to see more of our content. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please put them down below and we will do our best to get to them. Thanks for watching Egg and Bean Podcast.